Well, thank you. Senate Bill 377 would allow the governing body of a municipality to annex a research park that is compact and continuous to the existing municipal boundaries if the property has not been sold within the past 6 months and the municipality receives the written consent of all the property owners. Then the municipality and the county must adopt reciprocal ordinances. Basically what has happened is when we recruit people into business parks, they were recruited to come in, establish themselves with a set of rules, and I think it's kind of unfair to change the rules mid-game, and then for the annexation regions, these are trying to grow businesses, create jobs. I had an incident in my area where one of my municipalities put through a resolution in their city to try to annex the research park and the businesses located there. Basically what happened is they would, the research park is receiving all of their governmental services from another jurisdiction like St. Charles County, the City of Collettville Fire Protection District, and the Dunkard Creek Sewer District, but the City of Weldon Springs wanted to come in and annex them. They wouldn't get any additional services. They'd still get the services from those they were receiving, but they'd have to pay additional taxes to Weldon Springs for the same services. And so this would cost several of the companies, upwards of $100,000 because of some of the number of employees and things and the revenues and the utilities that they used. So I just thought that research parks were a little bit different entity, and that we should probably, when we're establishing them, have a set of rules and try to make it, they can be annexed, but that has to go through a set of procedures, so it's not just a land grab for taxation by some municipalities. Gladly answer any questions I do have. Yes, I called Tracy King from the Missouri Chamber.
Come on, man.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Tracy King and I'm here representing the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And before I get started on my testimony, I also have written testimony from several of the businesses, mostly manufacturing companies that are located within the Missouri Research Park who want to go on record, those being Nike IHM, AFB International, Central World Thread Dye Company, Consultant Lubricants Incorporated, Supplies Network, and also Zoltec. Senator Root did a great job explaining the annexation. I guess one question you may have is why should these businesses be exempt from annexation when we have other businesses in incorporated areas who aren't exempt from annexation? And I think the message is pretty clear. These businesses were recruited by the state through the University of Missouri system to move here and were enticed through a set of parameters, and one of those parameters was the taxing environment. So we think it's very unfair and bad public policy to change those parameters. Now that they're here, they made their investment and commitment to the state, and anyway, through just a tax increase, as Senator Roop had said, when they would not get any additional services. Last year, we brought the legislation forward. It was late in session, so it did not come before this committee, but last year we said that in our legislation that you can't annex the Missouri Research Park at all. We went back, talked over the interim, and decided maybe to be more fair, we could set up some parameters where the municipality can annex, and we set those under two conditions. First of all, it has to be voluntary, or second of all, the companies must have sold the business in order to annex it in to hold those business harmless. I was asked here just actually today, doesn't this mean that the annexation process works? Because the annexation actually passed, there was a fight through the judicial process, and the municipality backed off. And I guess my answer to that would be yes, but that was at the expense of those businesses in the research park. They're there trying to run their business, and they had to stop, not basically stop operations, but some of them had to stop what they were doing, organize to fight the annexation, and then also pay attorney's fees. If you haven't noticed, we're in an economic downturn. There's 2,000 jobs located within this business research park, and many of them are looking at restructuring, and I know one particular tenant has been talking to its corporate headquarters that if they don't have some surety that says that they're not going to have a tax increase, they may end up moving their facilities out of state.
But I do respectfully disagree with Senator Roop's a couple of the points that he made. We did not feel that this was just a simple tax and grab, land grab strategy. If you look at what occurred, the city of O'Fallon actually did try to annex the research park, and take a lot of the wildlife area first, and that is, the research park was part of our identified growth area. So that, at that point, is when the city was prompted to take action to also pursue annexation attempts. Through that process, I will argue that the system, the current statutory regulations on annexations currently work. We did have a vote of the people. It was a successful vote in favor of the annexation. We had not gone as far as having a hearing before a judge. With the mounting opposition from the tenants in the research park, the city officials were voted to withdraw the involuntary annexation attempt. So my point is the current statutes do work. On the point of no city services, there were city services that would be increasing. It would have been street repair, street maintenance, and also additional police protection.
Back to why you pursued annexation in the first place, but it wasn't at the request of the property owners, was it?
No, it was not. Initially, the city of O'Fallon pursued involuntary annexation of essentially the wildlife areas, bush wildlife, in order to...
You're Weldon Spring.
I'm with the city of Weldon Spring. And when the city of Weldon Spring got wind of that, that is when we had been trying to voluntarily annex, and we had to step up our efforts.
So it was a threat from O'Fallon,
essentially,
kind of that if they were going to use bush wildlife to jump in and grab new tax revenue from, if anybody was going to do it, basically, it was going to be Weldon Spring had more of a right to it than O'Fallon did. That's where it really kind of comes.
We do feel it is part of our natural growth area, and it's been identified in our comprehensive plan.
So you've recognized it as a part of future expansion for the city of Weldon Spring.
Yes.
And so, not that you provide services, but it would be a means for you to capture additional revenue and also future annexation by using that property in much the same way that O'Fallon used bush wildlife?
No, we feel that we would be providing municipal services. I mean, that was the original intent.
But there was no request for services. They were kind of like a pawn in this game. The research park was.
The city had been pursuing voluntary annexation, and in that pursuit, we were...
I understand. It was voluntary up until O'Fallon looked like they might get the research park, and then you decided to cease negotiations and take another tack, because the fight, as far as you were concerned, was between you and O'Fallon, the city of Weldon Spring and the city of O'Fallon.
That's one way of looking at it, yes.
You didn't say it was the wrong way to look at it. But I think that's a perfect illustration of why the research park and the tenants of the property owners within that research park are looking at the legislature for some additional protection so that they're not the pawn in this game between municipalities. So I understand where you're coming from and what your position was and why you did what you did, but I think that's a valid reason for the bill is so that the property owners are not a victim to this municipal competition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the witness? And one thing I do want to say, and I won't belabor the argument, but I know that you feel that, you know, the current statutes are sufficient for annexation. I will disagree with that because there are cities that willy-nilly go off the reservation and decide to annex anything and everything in its path. And those are the problems that we have. As good a relationship as I have with the municipal league, believe me, there are cases in this case where we need to make exceptions and we need to put our foot down. And as I say, so the Senator Dempsey bringing that out, the fact that this is kind of like a horse race, who's going to get to the finish line first and grab the crown jewel, you know, and that's not right. That's not in the best interest of citizens. But anyway.